Hello, dear friends. I am Dr. Anuradha Dhawan here, and today's session is to revise important ophthalmology images. We will try to cover 30 important ophthalmic images in 30 minutes for exam purpose. So let us start with the important images. Okay, so what is this chart used for? So what are we seeing over here? We are seeing a chart on which the English letters are written first letter in the topmost row, then two letters in the second row. Friends, this is the chart which is known as Snellen's chart, and this is used for distance vision testing for adults and older children. So as you can see here, this is English language chart. We have other languages charts also. Additional point to remember over here is that for people who are illiterate, the C charts and E charts are also available, and they are known as Landolt charts. Another distance vision chart which is used is your ETDRS chart. But here this image is of Snellen's chart, which is used for distance vision. Coming to the second image, identify the given image. What are we seeing over here, friends? You can have a look that there is a circular disc which is present, and if you notice very carefully, there is a small hole in that circular disc or occluder. This is the image of your pinhole. Okay, the small central opening is about 1 millimeter in size. The patient is asked to look through this opening. If the vision improves when the patient looks through this opening, that indicates that there is a refractive error in this case. Okay, so this is an image of pinhole, and pinhole is used for, again, distance vision testing. Moving to the next image, identify the given image. Friends, what are we looking over here? We are able to see there are multiple plates in which different colored dots are there. So these different dots will help you to remember that these are Ishihara plates and they are used for color vision testing. Okay, they are also known as Ishihara pseudo isochromatic plates. The purpose is for color vision screening, and Ishihara color vision test is the best screening test for color vision. Moving on to the next image. Identify the given test. Again, an image is shown to us. If you notice here carefully, you can see on one side there is an image of a fly, and that is your hint. This is your Titmus fly test. Titmus fly test. So you can see on one side there is an image of a fly. On the other side there are different figures over there, and there is also a Polaroid glass over here. So patient wears these glasses and patient is asked to notice the three-dimensional perception of this image, what is known as stereopsis. So this is your Titmus fly test, and it is used for stereopsis. Moving on to the next image, identify the given instrument. So as you can see over here, this is an instrument which is shown over here. On one side of the instrument, you can see the eyepieces. On the other side, there is a chin rest. So this is your slit lamp biomicroscope. Slit lamp biomicroscope is an instrument which is used for complete examination of the eye in detail. Okay, so we can examine the different layers of the eye one by one. So this is slit lamp biomicroscope. Moving to this picture. So identify the procedure which is being done here. Okay, so if you notice over here, there is a patient sitting and then there is an observer or examiner. Examiner is holding an instrument in the hand. And if we notice from that instrument, the eye is being lighted. Okay, but point to be noted over here is that there is a distance between the examiner and the patient. This is your procedure of distant direct ophthalmoscope. Okay, here we are using the direct ophthalmoscope, but from a distance. That is why it is known as distant direct ophthalmoscopy. The distance is 25 centimeter. We shine the light of the direct ophthalmoscope through the dilated pupil of the patient, and through the ophthalmoscope we can notice if there is any opacity in the media. What kind of opacity? There can be corneal opacity, there can be cataract, there can be vitreous opacities, and we also notice what kind of glow or red reflex is coming from the patient's eye. If retina is healthy and vitreous cavity is clear, then you notice a red reflex. If retina is detached or there is a tumor, then we get a dull reflex or a white reflex. The white pupillary reflex is also known as leukocoria. So this procedure is distant direct ophthalmoscopy. Now, identify another procedure which is being shown over here. Identify the procedure being done here. So dear friends, now have a careful look. Again, you can see there is a patient, there is an examiner. The examiner is holding direct ophthalmoscope in the hand, the light of which is being shown on the patient's eye. But here the examiner has come very close to the patient. This is the procedure of direct ophthalmoscopy. Okay, so when it is at a distance of 25 centimeter, then it is a distant direct ophthalmoscopy. When the doctor has come or examiner has come very close, that is direct ophthalmoscopy. So with the help of direct ophthalmoscope, as you can see, it is a uniocular instrument that you are using one eye to examine. This is the instrument which gives us a magnified view of central part of the retina or central fundus. Okay, and the magnification is about 15 times. The image which is seen is virtual and erect. So we can identify this is a process of direct ophthalmoscopy being done. Now identify this procedure. What is the procedure being done over here? Now in this image, you can notice that the examiner is wearing an instrument on the head and he is holding a special lens in the hand. The patient is in slightly supine position. Okay. And again, there is a distance between the examiner and the patient. Now, this is the procedure of indirect ophthalmoscopy. Indirect ophthalmoscopy. Indirect ophthalmoscopy is again a method to examine the retina. And it is the best method to examine the peripheral part of the retina, because here you can see a wide field of the retina. Okay, the magnification is less. Magnification is about 3 to 5 times, but field is very large. And for the complete examination of retinal periphery, the best method is indirect ophthalmoscopy, what you are seeing over here. Okay, and this is the image of the instrument which we use for indirect ophthalmoscopy, that is indirect ophthalmoscope. So you can see it has a headband, you can wear it over your head, and then it has multiple lens mirror system and a self illumination which helps us to see the fundus of the patient. Indirect ophthalmoscope. Going ahead, my friends. So again, another popular type of the image-based question which can be asked in the exam is to identify the refractive error by giving you an image of an optical diagram. Okay, so in this you can see the light rays they have been made. The light rays are passing through cornea, anterior chamber, lens in the vitreous cavity, and they are getting focused. But please notice where they are getting focused. These light rays are getting focused at a point in front of the retina. Now, when the light rays, they get focused in front of the retina, that type of the refractive error is known as myopia. Myopia. Okay. So here the light rays are focusing in front of retina. Coming to another image, identify the refractive error in this image. So here again, it's an optical diagram. You can see the parallel light rays are passing through the cornea, anterior chamber, lens, vitreous chamber, but they are now focusing at a point behind retina or behind eyeball. Okay, so this type of refractive error in which the light rays, they focus at a point behind the eyeball is known as hypermetropia. Hypermetropia. Most common cause of both myopia and hypermetropia is axial type. Axial. When the eyeball is bigger in size, that leads to axial myopia. When eyeball is smaller in size, that leads to hypermetropia. Okay, myopia is corrected by minus lenses. M for myopia, M for minus. Myopia is corrected by minus lenses, that is concave lenses. Hypermetropia is corrected by plus lenses, that is convex lenses. Moving to the next image. Again, a very expected image to be coming in the exam. Identify the procedure being done here. So what are we noticing over here? We can see over here that there is a patient, an instrument is touching the eyeball of this patient, and there is a blue light which is being used. So when this is the type of image which you see, please mark it as Goldman applanation tonometry. The procedure which is being done over here is your Goldman applanation tonometry. Tonometry means measurement of intraocular pressure. And this small instrument which you are seeing over here, which is touching the eyeball of the patient, is your Goldman applanation tonometer. Okay, so through this, we notice that what kind of mires are being formed on the surface of the cornea. And this examination is done under cobalt blue filter light, as you are seeing. Goldman applanation tonometry, dear friends, is the gold standard method or best method or method of choice for measuring intraocular pressure. Going ahead, now here there is a picture which is being shown to us, and this is an image of a 10-year-old boy complaining of itching which worsens in summer. So there is a short history also being given over here. Now, when we talk about itching, so always think that there is some allergic etiology. And in the picture, what are we seeing over here? You can see the upper palpebral conjunctiva or tarsal conjunctiva is shown over here. And we can see these large, rounded, raised lesions. These are your papillae. These are your papillae, big-sized papillae, which are also known as giant papillae. And they are giving a cobblestone appearance. They are giving a cobblestone appearance. So this is an image of cobblestone appearance of the giant papillae in VKC. VKC or vernal keratoconjunctivitis, or also known as spring kata. Going ahead, identify the image. Now, in this image, what are we noticing? We are noticing that again, this image is being seen under the cobalt blue filter light. You can see in the central part, there is a green stain which is visible. Okay, so this is the image of corneal epithelial abrasion. Now, when the epithelial cells are denuded, they are abraded, that raw area, you can say, will take up the sodium fluorescent dye. Sodium fluorescent dye itself is an orange dye, but when we see it under cobalt blue light, the area which has taken the dye will appear green in color, as you can see. So this is an image of corneal epithelial abrasion, which is stained with the sodium fluorescent dye. Even in the corneal ulcer, because ulcer has an associated area of epithelial abrasion, again, it will appear green by taking the sodium fluorescent dye. Now, identify this diagnosis. Now, this picture has been coming in the past exams very frequently. Again, a very important image. Here, a similar kind what we just saw. Blue light is there. Green kind of stain is being taken by the cornea. But if you notice very carefully, this stain is in the form of a branched pattern. Branch, like a branches of a tree. Now, this kind of the pattern is seen in dendritic ulcer. This is your dendritic ulcer, which is seen as herpes simplex viral keratitis, HSV keratitis. Okay, so don't forget this picture of dendritic ulcer. Going ahead, identify the image of an eye of a young male with history of frequent change of glasses. Okay, so here in the history, the clue has been given to you. A young male with frequent change of glasses means unstable refraction. And in the image, you can see over here that cornea, see the curvature of the cornea. The curvature of the cornea is conical, which has resulted into the irregular astigmatism. That is why the patient is requiring change of glasses. So this is an image of keratoconus. Again, a very favorite topic with the examiners, keratoconus. Coming to next image, identify the given sign. So my friends, what are you looking over here? You are seeing there is an image. The patient is looking down. Okay. And if you notice carefully, the lower lid of the patient has become conical when the eyeball is downwardly placed. Why? Because of the conical cornea. So this is the Munson's sign. Munson sign is also a feature of keratoconus because the cornea is conical. So when the patient looks down, the lower lid also becomes V-shaped or conical. That is your Munson's sign. Okay, now this is the image, and after showing the image, the question is being asked, identify the procedure. So friends, what are we noticing over here? We are noticing that multiple black lines, which are your sutures. Okay, so you can see there are multiple sutures which are placed 360-degree all over. These are your sutures between the host cornea and the graft corneal button. So this is an image representing a case of keratoplasty in which corneal transplantation has been done. So I think we can very clearly, by noticing these multiple sutures all over, we can identify this image as keratoplasty image. Now identify this image. Now this, what are we noticing over here? You can notice there is cornea, okay, but there is a fold from the conjunctiva which is coming to cover the cornea partly. Okay, this is a triangular fold, fleshy in appearance, and it is encroaching the cornea. So this is the typical appearance of pterygium. Pterygium we know is a type of elastotic hyperplastic degeneration in which a triangular fold of conjunctiva covers the cornea. And Stocker's line, another question, Stocker's line and iron pigmentation line can be seen in front of the head of the pterygium. Most common site of pterygium is your nasal side as you are looking at this picture. So pterygium, easy to identify. Few important points which we must remember, I have already told you. Moving to the next image of an eye which is hit with the cricket ball. Make the diagnosis. So slit lamp image has been given to you, history has been given to you, eye has been hit by the cricket ball. So if you notice over here, the cornea is clear, but what are we noticing in the central part? The pupil is dilated, and in the central part where you are looking at the lens, you can notice an opacity, and this opacity is like a flower, like a rosette. So this is your rosette cataract, which is seen after blunt trauma. Rosette cataract seen after blunt trauma. Moving to the next image, a newborn child with watering photophobia, large hazy cornea. Okay, so watering in a newborn child is not to be taken lightly. If the child is also showing photophobia and, as mentioned over here, large cornea with corneal haziness, the most likely diagnosis is buphthalmos or congenital glaucoma. So you notice over here, large sized eyeball, large cornea, and we can see one cornea on the right eye is hazy, the left eye cornea is still clear. So this is most likely a case of buphthalmos. Now, another popular question which has been coming in the past exams, identify the investigation. So friends, here we are seeing a picture. Okay, so we can notice this is a fundus-like picture. Okay, but it is a black and white. And you notice here carefully, the retinal vessels are appearing white. Now, why they are appearing white? Because there is a fluorescent dye in these. So this image is of FFA or fundus fluorescent angiography. How we will identify? This picture will appear black and white, and the retinal vessels and all that background of the retina will appear whitish because of the sodium fluorescent dye which is there in those vessels. Okay, so this is the picture of fundus fluorescent angiography, which is investigation of choice whenever we want to study any retinal vascular diseases. For example, diabetic retinopathy. Now, identify this investigation. Another important investigation which can be asked over here. So if you notice over here, you are seeing a layered structure which is showing many layers. Okay, and there is a curve in the center. Okay, Now this multiple layered structure is your retina. This is your retina, and this is the image of OCT, or optical coherence tomography. Okay, so in optical coherence tomography, the different layers of the retina, retinal pigment epithelium, photoreceptor layers, and other layers, they can be visualized. And this central curve which you are seeing is your foveal depression that represents the central part of the macula, which is fovea. Okay, so please remember this investigation. This is optical coherence tomography. Optical coherence tomography is investigation of the choice for macular edema. For macular edema. Going ahead, identify the fundus diagnosis of a patient who complained of floaters and flashes. And there is this image. So patient had floaters and flashes, and now this is image. Now this is the fundus diagram. Okay, so you can notice those retinal vessels over here. But here we also notice that there is a tear in the retina. The retina is torn. And this type of the shape of the tear is known as horseshoe tear. And you can also see the retina is ballooned up because it is detached. So this is an image of horseshoe tear of the retina with retinal detachment. This type of retinal detachment is known as rhegmatogenous retinal detachment. And horseshoe tear is the most dangerous type of the retinal break, which can quickly lead to retinal detachment. Okay, now identify the image. I will give you a brief history. He is a hypertensive patient representing with painless decrease in the vision. Okay, so what are we noticing in this image? How to identify this image, my friends? You can notice over here, this is a fundus diagram. Okay, so we can see the retinal vessels, we can find the optic disc, but we also notice that whole of the surface of the retina is full of retinal hemorrhages. These retinal hemorrhages are flame shaped also. They are dot and blot hemorrhages also. We can notice yellowish lesions over here, which are representing cotton wool spots. If we notice the macular area, it is not clear because of edema. Now, this typical appearance in which whole of the surface of the retina is splattered with the hemorrhages is known as tomato splash appearance of the fundus, which is seen in the cases of central retinal vein occlusion, or CRVO. Such kind of patient will present with sudden painless decrease in vision. Going ahead, now they are asking us to make a fundus diagnosis of a 20-year-old male complaining of night blindness. Okay, so a young male patient complaining of night blindness. Now looking at this fundus picture, please notice three important things. You see optic disc is appearing yellow in color. That we call it as pale optic disc. Okay, if you notice second point, if you notice the vessels, the retinal vessels, they have become very, very thin, thread-like. These are known as attenuated arterioles. They have become very thin. And the third thing which we are noticing over here is these black pigments. Okay, these bony spicule pigment, black pigments, which are there on the mid-peripheral part of the retina. So these three important features which we have just seen makes it a diagnosis of retinitis pigmentosa. Retinitis pigmentosa is a disorder of rod photoreceptors, and rods we know are responsible for the vision in the dim light or during the night time. So that is why this patient will have night blindness. Another important question which can be asked, what is the investigation of choice of for retinitis pigmentosa? That is ERG. ERG, electroretinogram. Retinitis pigmentosa, electroretinogram, ERG. Okay, friends, moving on to the next image. Identify the image of a patient with painful decrease in vision. So this has also been coming in the past exam. A patient who had painful decrease in vision. So how to identify what is the diagnosis in this patient? So if you notice here carefully, one thing you can notice is multiple dots on the cornea. They are actually at the back of the cornea. We call them as CAPs, or chorotic precipitates. The second thing is the pupil is irregular. The pupil is irregular. Why it is irregular? Because of the posterior synecdoche, because of the adhesions between the iris and lens. Now, when in a slit lamp image, you notice irregular pupil representing posterior synechiae, please mark it as anterior uveitis. Anterior uveitis. Okay, so this is an image of anterior uveitis. Sometimes the image can also show a hypopyon, pus in the anterior chamber, polymorphs in the anterior chamber. Okay, but irregular pupil, hypopyon, keratic precipitates, all these they go in the favor of anterior uveitis. Moving on to the next image. So identify the given image. So here I have put up two images so that you can compare and diagnose side by side. Now in the upper image, if you notice, okay, so notice both the eyes. The left eye of the patient is straight, but the right eye of the patient is deviated outwards. Okay, outward deviation of the eye is known as exotropia or divergent squint. Okay, and if you notice carefully, you can see that light reflex, which is known as Hirschberg reflex, is also deviated in the cases of squint. Okay, so the upper image is of divergent squint. If you notice carefully in the lower image, again, the left eye is in the center, but now the right eye is deviated inward. Inward deviation of the eye is known as convergent squint or esotropia. Okay, so sometimes a simple picture like this can come in the exam. So if the eye is diverged out, that is exotropia. If the eye is converged in, that is esotropia. Okay, moving to another image. So this is the histopathological image. Again, a important question for the exam. Identify this image. Now here, what are we noticing? We are noticing there are large cells with large basophilic nuclei. These cells, they are arranged in a rosette-like manner with central empty lumen. Now, please mark this picture in your mind. This is the image of Flexner-Winter-Steiner rosette. And we know Flexner-Winter-Steiner rosettes are specific or pathognomic of retinoblastoma. So this histopathology image is important for our exam. Okay. And in the last image, identify the image. Here it is a painless lid swelling or a nodule. So you can notice here on the upper lid, away from the lid margin, you can notice that there is a swelling. And they have mentioned already it is a painless swelling. So the most common cause of painless lid swelling or nodule is your clesion. The clesion is an inflammation of meibomian glands. Meibomian glands are also known as tarsal glands. In contrast to this, stye is infection of glands of Zeiss. Okay, so clesion and stye are two important lid swellings. Here, how we will notice that whether it is a clesion, because it will be a painless swelling and it will be away from the lid margin. So these, my friends, were 30 important ophtha images, which are a must. And we know it is not difficult to identify. I have highlighted what are the clues with which you can identify, and there will always be in the case history, if this is given, some indication to that what are they asking for. So here is my email and Telegram channel link. If you have any further query, you are most welcome to ask. And all the best to my dear friends. Wish you a happy learning always.